This is a special presentation of CBS Sports Network.
Each year, an army of laborers, craftsmen, and artists embark on a journey to create the stage for one of the great American sporting events. It is a stage for a drama that plays only once, but becomes an enduring memory. As basketball teams fight for recognition in mid-December, the court on which they hope to play on in March begins to take shape. The process starts in the woods of Wisconsin and Michigan and passes through small towns in Iowa and Ohio before beginning its final journey to the host city of the Final Four. The making of the Final Four court is the lifeblood of small communities throughout the heartland of America. From a field of 68 teams, only 4 will have the honor of playing on it. And for one, it will be a court of champions.
Start with the rising sun and work towards the setting sun. But take only the mature trees, the sick trees, and the trees that have fallen. When you reach the end of the reservation, turn and cut from the setting sun to the rising sun, and the trees will last forever. Chief Oshkosh, Menominee.
Northeast Wisconsin in December. The Menominee Indian Reservation. The Menominee have produced sustainable lumber here since 1908. But their coexistence with nature is thousands of years old. They have roots in this land that reach as deep as the trees they tend and harvest. They cannot be separated. This is their lifeblood.
The Menominees are caretakers of the forest. There's a sense of family about everybody. Things go bad with somebody in the community or something, everybody comes together as one here at MT and does what they can to help out.
Growing up in this community and knowing that we are the original landowners of this area in northeastern Wisconsin for over 15,000 years, it gives you a feeling of it's ours, it's an ownership here.
Menominees have their own way of living, you know, and their beliefs, and you know, it's been carried on, handed down from generation to generation, and it's honor to be Menominee. Proud of it.
I spoke to my father and I told him I was very proud to do the same thing that he's doing, and my son is doing the same thing I'm doing. And my dad reminded me that his father worked here and his father's father worked here. So I have 5 running generations with my son, myself, my dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather all working here.
We don't dictate what comes out of the forest. We got to take what's given to us and we got to make it work. Ultimately, we end up doing what we believe is right to sustain the forest, to make sure the forest is there for, again, for the next 7 generations.
When we talk about sustainability, we're talking about sustaining the forest, not taking everything out. There's a lot of times when we are asked about the great trees that are out there, why can't we go cut them down when certain species are hot out on the market? We can't do that. What we need to do is we have certain re-entry cycles in different sections in our forest, and we go into them when we can only take out the dead, the dying trees, and we save the best. That means that forest gets better every time we go out there and cut.
In 1854, there was 1,300,000,000 board feet of timber. Today, there's 1,900,000,000 board feet. The forest continues to grow and thrive.
We weren't only a part of sawing it and selling it and cutting it out of the tree. Hey, that's a part of our life right there that you're standing on. That's a part of the blood of the Menominee people. That's a part of our history, part of our culture, and that's a big part of us, who we are.
While the forest is the lifeblood of the Menominee people, the mill is their livelihood. Although they have been harvesting timber for generations, it wasn't until 1908 that the Menominee were able to construct the mill and create the town of Neopet. Menominee Tribal Enterprises, which owns the mill, is the backbone of the local economy and generates over $100 million annually.
We used to sell our logs. We used to just cut our logs and sell them downstream, downriver, put them on the trains and rail cars and send them out of here. And there was a governor, I believe, La Follette, and he was instrumental in getting the sawmill going here.
It provided a base of economic sustenance that enabled Menominee to keep part of their ancestral lands and also to help maintain cultural identity.
It provides a lot of jobs because we have a real high rate of unemployment. And we're one of the lucky few to have a job in this mill.
The pride that comes with producing a quality product that's used across the nation, it speaks volumes for not just the employment here, but the reservation and the Menominee people.
We're not depending on a lot of other people. We're self-sustaining. We have our own resources here. We have our own forest. And being sustainable, meaning we're going to be here for a long time, and I'm very, very proud to say that. And it gives a good feeling, a feeling of longevity.
Product we're developing is going to be a big part of the NCAA tournament. That gives them a sense of accomplishment and pride.
I'm happy for the tribe right now, for Enterprise. We get some little bit of a good exposure of what kind of hardwoods we cut up here, some of the best in the United States.
today when there's so much discussion about keeping jobs in America and making different things in America. You got something right here where it's a great example of making products for America, in America, by especially American Indians.
Court of Champions on CBS Sports Network is being delivered by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you.
"430 miles southwest of Neopet, nestled among endless farmland, lies the tiny town of Jefferson, Iowa.
Jefferson, Iowa is a small farm community right in the heart of Iowa farm ground. Pretty laid back, pretty rural. The people here learn to do an honest day's work at a fairly early age.
The people care, the people work hard. A lot of these people, you know, their fathers or forefathers were farmers, and it's known as a hard-working crew.
While Jefferson might be small, this town is home to a company whose work is seen on one of the largest stages in sports. Spalding has been manufacturing basketball goals here since 1995 and now produces the official backstop for the NCAA tournament.
I think the initial time, you know, you're a little bit shell-shocked. Doing it the sixth time, I can't say that the excitement diminishes a whole lot. I think we head into it with a little bit more confidence than we did the first time, but certainly the excitement's still there when you're talking about a stage the size of the Final Four.
It's awesome to know that we are a provider of the Spalding units for the Final Four. Myself, as well as some of my co-workers, just find it absolutely amazing. Come February, we start seeing some orders come in for the Final Four. That's when the people start getting really energetic and pumping units out, and they get that, you know, feeling that, hey, you know, we're doing something that's very important in the entertainment world.
Basically, it all starts with cutting steel. You have to cut all the parts first, put those parts into a drill jig, and make sure that every part that gets holes drilled or parts that get bent, all that happens next. All those components then move into the welding department. Those are all put in jigs and welded up. Welding time is pretty significant on a portable backstop because there's probably somewhere between 40 and 50 linear feet of weld that has to be done.
We take the weldments down to our powder coat line, run it through, everything's powder coated at Spalding.
Once we spray the powder on it electrostatically, we move it into the oven, bake it at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. It melts the powder and bonds it to the steel and creates an extremely durable finish.
Then we take everything to assembly. We match it up with some parts coming in from outside sources. A lot of those outside sources are also located in Iowa as well. Local machine shops, things of that nature. And basically we have 2 to 3 individuals that work very hard to make sure that the quality goes into these units on the assembly side.
The NCAA Final Four uses the Spalding SD-180 breakaway rim. That means that it has a breakaway action through 180 degrees. So if I'm dunking from the front, it breaks toward me. If I'm dunking from the baseline, it still breaks toward me. So that's easier on the athlete and their hands and their wrists because it's breaking with them. So we test all of those rims before they leave the factory. We'll also test every rim at every regional site and both Final Four sites before any competition takes place. Our technicians in the field have the capability to make those tests and make those adjustments to make sure every game is played with exactly the same equipment.
Once the backstops, backboards, and rims have been constructed, they are packaged separately and prepared for shipment to New Orleans. The employees at Spalding take pride in the role they play for the NCAA tournament.
On the whole, the portable backstop is not an easy process. When you break it down to simple operations, a complicated project becomes fairly easy for us. At the end of the day, when you're looking at the unit as a complete whole, there's a lot of satisfaction that goes throughout the factory because everybody's been involved.
I think sometimes even the people on our production floor, including myself, we sometimes forget where these are going and how important it is in the entertainment and basketball industry that we provide these kind of units. I watch basketball some. When I watch basketball or see a basketball game on, I'll always stop. I'll always stop and look to see are they playing on Spalding units.
In these times, manufacturing facilities around the country are struggling. I think it's important that people understand that these are made in America. We're probably successful at what we do because of the product that we produce and because we're pretty good at it. We know how to do it.
The wood's always flowing, lines don't stop, so it's a high demand job.
It's the dead of winter in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Tucked alongside the Ottawa National Forest is the tiny town of Amasa.
The communities are very tight around here. The populations aren't real big, so everybody pretty much knows everybody.
Very outdoor-oriented place, hunting and fishing, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing. Even if you haven't been here, you can kind of imagine what it's like. It's you know, a lot of open land and you know, not too much going on. A pretty quiet place.
At the turn of the 20th century, Amasa was an iron mining and logging boom town of 1,000 people. Today, it has shrunk to just over 300 residents. But it happens to be the birthplace of the Final Four court. Connor Sports Flooring has been here for over 50 years, and since 2006, they have been responsible for building every single NCAA championship basketball court.
We have 108 people on staff currently. We draw people from about 40 miles around.
It's very crucial for the people that work here that this place stays open, stays running year-round. There's really not much else around here for the people that live 15-20 minutes away. If Connor Sports Flooring wasn't here, this place would be a ghost town.
Production for the Final Four court gets underway in Amasa almost 4 months before the ball is tipped in New Orleans. The workers at the Connor Flooring Mill, where over 700 courts are produced each year, know they are part of something special.
We'll have 21 courts that are going out there this year for the regionals, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the Final Four. And that's a special thing.
When we start making the NCAA Final Four floors, we get very busy, and there's like a buzz that goes around the mill at knowing that that's what it's going towards.
They're very proud that floors from Amasa are able to be a part of that tournament, and they feel a part of it, so they're very excited.
The construction of the Final Four court begins with the arrival of the raw planks from Menominee Tribal Enterprises. These planks are dry and brought into the flooring mill where they move through a variety of rip saws, planers, and other machines that transforms the rough maple into a finished piece of flooring material.
It's busy in the flooring mill. It's noisy. We've got loud machinery there, and we've got people handling a lot of materials. So it's everything. We've got 2 production lines that run.
The wood's always flowing, lines don't stop, so it's a high demand job.
Most dangerous part of my job would be the planer. You get a lot of boards that can kick back out of it when they break in half.
The wood that comes down, we nest it into a big puzzle, and we make the bundles that get banded at the end. It comes fast, so you gotta be quick.
We run as much as 60,000 board feet of lumber through the flooring mill in a day's time.
Once the raw planks have been milled, they are bundled together and moved to the portables department, where another team of laborers begins work on the 4-foot by 7-foot panels that will eventually become the Final Four court.
We take those flooring strips from the flooring mill to a portable flooring operation. There, those strips are nailed onto a subfloor system and an underlayment system, and we make our portable floors called a quick lock floor.
Final Four court typically takes around 225 to 250 panels based on the size of the floor. Each panel weighs approximately 250 pounds, and once all these are assembled, you basically have about a 7,000 square foot plane surface.
There's a certain nailing regiment that's done that the guys do. You know, when everything's said and done, it's all squared up just as it needs to be and ready to, you know, have the hardware attached and ready for shipment to be sanded and finished.
Once the panels are made here, they get loaded onto a truck and they'll ship to a finisher.
Now, as far as shipping, we make sure that we use reliable partners to help us ship the courts. We take special care in wrapping the court and packing the court. There's a lot that can go wrong, and the floor is not something that just can be replaced overnight. So if something were to happen to even part of the floor, it's extremely difficult for us to make changes on the fly.
It's just amazing to be able to watch the basketball games on TV and know that the game is being watched by millions of people worldwide, and it's just wonderful to know that we are the ones that made it happen.
In a way, I think Amosai is a well-kept secret. You know, we're such a tiny community, and yet, you know, people across country probably don't necessarily know what we do. And that's what makes the Final Four floor so exciting, is we're getting our floor out into a venue where literally hundreds of thousands of people are watching it.
The Final Four court is the centerpiece of March Madness, and for the winning team, it holds the memories of triumph.
And the most improbable national championship in Yukon history is in the books!
Since 1986, when the NCAA began hosting the men's Final Four on portable courts, the winning team has had the option to buy the floor.
In order to purchase the floor, it costs the schools in the neighborhood of $100,000. If someone went out to purchase the floor, it's probably going to cost them around $120,000, at least the quality that we use for the Final Four. So they're getting it at a bargain.
Michigan State bought its championship floor in 2000 and used it as their primary court.
It's perfect timing, actually. The floor that we had in the Breslin Center, it was due for replacement. There was a real special sense of pride in what Coach Izzo and his team had just accomplished. So we had these two things come together at the same time, and we decided to purchase the floor. At the time, it was very cost effective. The price for that floor was less than if we had purchased a new floor. So from a dollars and cents standpoint, it was a good move for our department.
Florida plays on its floor from 2006, and it has served as both a tribute to that team and an inspiration to the teams that followed.
It's hard to believe that they even are selling the courts to schools, to give them the opportunity to use them. It means a great deal when you realize that, wow, this was actually the court we played on for a national championship. So I think our guys, even here in the program, understand how special that is as well.
For some, to own a piece of a championship court is to actually hold history in their hands. After Florida won its second title in 2007, the university cut up the court and sold the pieces to fans and alumni.
More than anything, it's a memento of having been there. I guess it's an affirmation for me that that's what I do. I support my athletic program, and I'm going to be there when they're playing for a national championship.
Kansas has the center court from the 2008 Final Four hanging in its practice facility on campus.
For guys to come in and see it every day and know that that's what they're working toward, I think it's a unbelievable motivator, and I think it's a great thing for recruits that come in to see it, because most of them remember when you played there, and to see the court that you played on is very special.
When it came in bare wood and panels. Once you get it in here, that's when the real work starts. Getting it off the truck's probably the easiest part of everything. When it came in bare wood and panels. Once you get it in here, that's when the real work starts. You got to start setting up, finding where your starting point's going to be. Once you get started, it's no turning back.
They told us we're going to be doing that about a year ago, and I've actually been putting some thought into it since then.
It's the Monday after the Super Bowl. The Final Four court has arrived in Apple Creek, Ohio, a small Amish community an hour south of Cleveland. For the next month, the craftsmen of the Ohio Floor Company will work 10 hours a day in a nondescript warehouse in the center of town to transform the raw court into a work of art.
Very few people have an idea that this is happening here. There's a few occasions I'll mention to somebody and they almost can't believe that the NCAA floor is being done here in Apple Creek, Ohio, in this rural community.
Every year, Connor Sports Flooring picks one of its finishers from around the country to assemble, sand, and paint the Final Four court. This year, it was the Ohio Floor Company.
To make a floor like this, you have to have the right people. People willing to devote their time, their energy, their patience to it.
Obviously, there's a lot of pressure. You want to make sure it's done right. There's a lot of people watching this floor.
This is the floor. This is the big deal. It's going to be great. Great experience.
Initially, obviously, you got to organize the rows in the order that they're going to be installed.
For this floor, they call it a zipper floor or a scissor floor. It's a little bit different because you start in the middle. For us, we had to find the center of our building, make a line, put the first row down to work off of that. Once you got that, it's just a matter of kind of slamming panels in, drilling them, pinning them, cleaning them, moving on to the next one.
After the floor is all laid out and all the panels are in place, we start sanding the floor. We'll sand it several different directions to get it nice, flat, and smooth.
Trying to interpret what the designer, artist, what they want, that would probably be the biggest challenge.
In collaboration with the NCAA, Connor, and the Ohio Floor Company, a small team of designers works to create a look and theme for the floor.
The court came about as a product of our exploration of what is New Orleans, what is the look of New Orleans. And so the color palette for the entire decor package, the scroll work elements, all of that was part of a design study, if you will, as to what feels like New Orleans.
Our part here is to take that design that they give us and then figure out how to apply it to the floor and get it applied to the floor in the way that it matches their color scheme and what they want.
We lay out the court, and then really for this floor we painted the lines first, and then it just kind of a snowball effect. You just go from one thing to another. The most difficult step in painting this court was definitely the border with all its shading.
We had to determine how much of fade there was going to be from the middle to the ends. So we have a variation of 20 colors from a lime green to a very dark green or black.
It all came out good. One color was a little bit too close or too far away, which I should have checked it.
Wow, there's not much difference there, is there?
We got it figured out. We checked it before we started.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
All right. I can tell Kenny to do some, and he knows what I'm talking about. He does most of the paint mixing for me because I can depend on him. Keeping track of it all is the hard part. It took 8 hours to do 20 gallons of paint.
You know, we have a roller for each color, and then a roller between each color to do the fading, and you got to make sure you apply enough paint so you have enough paint for the fading roller.
That's it. It's the fade, it looks right.
We would not let this floor go out unless we felt for sure that it was exactly what the Final Four NCAA people expect.
I think you can be a craftsman in any business. I mean, if you're proud of what you do, you put out your best product. Every time I get on a floor, I make sure it's the best product, and I'm proud to be a hardwood floor craftsman.
As the painting wraps up in Apple Creek, the artists and craftsmen who have called this warehouse home for the past month reflect on what it means to be part of the Final Four court.
It'll be nice because it's done, and it's as good as we can get it. And it's going to be nice to get a little bit of break from here. But then at the same time, we've spent the last month of our lives here, so it's going to be kind of a little different seeing it head out.
It's bragging rights for me. I'm sitting at the bar, drinking my beer. My friends are sitting there, and I'll tell them, what was the last thing you did that's on TV?
Sometimes I look at it and I almost feel like, you know, here it is sitting here and it's just it's so quiet. It's almost like it's sleeping here. Then when it gets there, it's like it wakes up and it's like, wow, here I am, you know, and now it's time for me to shine.
When you walk off that plane, you arrive for Final Four, we want you to know you're there for that game.
A full year before the ball tips in New Orleans, the design of the Final Four gets underway in Indianapolis. Every aspect of the event is carefully contemplated, including the look of tickets, programs, and signage. The design team's goal is to make New Orleans into a festive basketball town and give the event a feeling of grandeur. And the artwork on the Superdome alone will stretch over 18,000 square feet.
Everything ties together from the ticket to the court. There's a common look and feel.
It's very important to enhance the fans' experience, make it more than just, quote, a game. And from the very beginning, we work on the concept of the look of the event. That's everything from the hardwood floor to the large graphics on the stadium, both inside and outside. We design it, we manufacture it, and we install it.
The whole point of a good decor program for a sporting event is to welcome guests. From the moment they step off the plane, they realize this is something special. This is a championship. This isn't just another game. This is the pinnacle of basketball. There are several challenges to coming up with a look for the Final Four. The first of which is trying to keep a cohesive look across all the elements. The development timeline is months, and so that very first piece all the way to the pieces we come up with the day before the championship game all need to feel like they're part of one design package. In the Final Four, it's every day in March we're in here. We know that that's a 7-day-a-week run for us. But the team's always up to the challenge, and they always enjoy being a part of such a unique event.
You want to make it very exciting, very nice, very original for the fans. At the same time, get the tradition of men's basketball or women's basketball, and you want to make sure that it doesn't do anything to tarnish that tradition or really get too far out on the cutting edge.
We have to take into consideration every detail about a piece. If it's inside, if it's outside, if it's exposed to wind and weather or not, if it's going to be on camera or not. We have materials that are glossy and matte, fabric and vinyl. It's an infinite list of choices, but we try and dial in that right combination to make it look its best regardless of where it's located.
Once the design work is approved by the NCAA, the massive printing process begins.
We're a large format company. What we really specialize in is super graphics. Our printers are basically the largest printers in the world. They print 16 feet wide. Final Four numbers, you're probably talking somewhere around 150, 200,000 square feet of material.
Two weeks before the first teams roll into town, a small group travels from Indianapolis to New Orleans to begin the city's transformation.
You arrive for Final Four, we want you to know you're there for that game. You want to get your blood pumping and hey, I'm excited about this event. I'm excited about being in New Orleans. I'm ready for the basketball game to start. A lot of times, that's the one and only time they'll ever experience a Final Four. So it's pretty special being a part of that in that moment in their life.
To me, the most rewarding thing about what we do is provide a unique experience for fans. It's all about the fans at the end of the day. And to see people come in and be delighted, be surprised with what they see, really makes all this hard work worthwhile.
I'm looking forward to the parade into the dome. That's going to be the crowning jewel of my career.
Court of Champions on CBS Sports Network is being delivered by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you.
While the second round of the NCAA tournament tips off around the country, the Final Four court begins its journey from Apple Creek, Ohio to New Orleans. Workers load 42,000 pounds of finished court into the back of a 53-foot trailer for the trip south. The precious cargo is in the hands of UPS freight driver Phil Wolski.
Out of all the cargo that I've ever hauled, this is the number one. It's the best and most prestigious one that I've ever hauled.
The court heads south through 7 states and over 1,200 miles, making stops at cities and college campuses along the way.
The stop I'm looking for the best is New Orleans. I'm looking forward to the parade into the dome. That's going to be the crowning jewel of my career.
As the floor reaches New Orleans, the city celebrates. The centerpiece of the Final Four has arrived.
Oh, it's good to have it in the dock. Now let's just see if I can drop the trailer and go home.
Most relief is gone when it actually shows up. Once it's here, especially after the tour we did this year and knowing that it was on the road for 9-10 days, that was a little nerve-wracking.
It's like being an artist. You get to see your stuff all over the place, broadcast on national TV. And the guys that do our floors and people who build them in Amasa, they do just a fabulous job. It's unbelievable. And we ship these floors all over the world, and they always fit. It never ceases to amaze me.
Once the court is installed, a team from Spalding arrives to configure the backstops. After attaching the backboards and rims, they methodically test each goal before raising it into position. For the teams that have made it to the Final Four, the site of the court, finished, installed, and ready for their history to be written upon it, is an affirmation that they have indeed arrived.
You walk out, you look around, and you're saying, wow, this is unbelievable.
I thought it would be cool, and it was a lot cooler than what I thought it'd be. It's special.
Almost 4 months after the first northern hardwood maple trees were felled in Wisconsin, the 2012 Final Four court has completed its journey. It has taken hundreds of hard-working men and women to make it happen. From the timber harvesters of the Menominee Indian Reservation to the mill workers in Amasa, Michigan. From the craftsmen in Apple Creek, Ohio to the steel workers of Jefferson, Iowa. For them, this court represents a way of life. Only 4 teams will have the honor of playing on it, and for one, it will always be a court of champions.
Laissez-les, bon temps roulé. Let the good times roll in New Orleans.
There's some excitement in this house right now.
Time for basketball, finally, partners.
Let the Final Four begin.